Mohammed, I mean, the situation that you find yourself in, that all Palestinians find, there's not much room for humor, really, is there? Because it's such a raw situation. Um, do you sometimes think to yourself, I would just love the luxury just to be able to poke fun at people, to take the rise out of them, to be able to use humor? Because so many times people say, oh, people who are, in the struggle or on the left or whatever, they have no sense of humor. But of course, those who say that have got the luxury of having that because they just do, But your life as a Palestinian is one of a daily struggle. People have got to understand that. So, do you get any levity out of your work? Can you have some fun?
Yeah. I want to mention just one of my friends. He lives in Gaza, and in the situation in Gaza, it's worse than the situation here in West Bank. They are the big prison, surrounded by all of this, the Israeli army, and they cannot travel outside the Gaza for more than 15 years now. And in my second book, I try to depict. I've used one of his stories, because always he's trying to make a joke about the drone, because the sky of Gaza is full with the Israeli drone, and he's just talking about the voice of that drone, and that he cannot sleep, he cannot go to school, he tried to hear some music, and he cannot because of the drone. I use his jokes from Gaza, whereas the situation is worse than West Bank, to talk about this miserable situation in Gaza. And even here in the West Bank, it is the same. I do believe that we are, as a Palestinian, because we need this joke to keep live in this country. We are trying to create all of these jokes, and I think it's the best jokes that you can find around the world.
Yeah, I mean, listening to you, Mohammed, you're so right, because humor, political leaders, powerful people find humor incredibly threatening very often. And of course, during the Soviet times, this what they call the dark humor about the Qs and all the rest of it, and lampooning political, they really, really don't like it. And I'm sure it must be the same in Palestine and Israel as it is throughout the world. It's just that when you get up in the morning, and as you've just been telling us, you've got a message to get out there, and you're not going to be dissuaded from doing it. You're not going to be intimidated. But there's risk associated with it. And of course, you've actually been in prison. So tell us something about your time in prison. Why were you there for a start? And what is the situation of Palestinian prisoners?
Actually, the situation is very hard, and that's why I spent most of my time just doing the art. I've been in the small cell for more than 50 days, without windows, with very heavy metal door, because they want to just keep us to cut us with the outside life. The small cell, just with small dim light, without any resources, without anything. You haven't anything inside this cell. The food was very bad for the Palestinian prisoner. Maybe you will meet a lot of Palestinian prisoners. They are facing disease or something like that, health problem, and you cannot help them inside that cells or that presence. When they moved me from that interrogation center to the prison, the situation is the same. Just maybe you have television, you have something like that, very simple thing. But the situation is very hard for the Palestinian prisoner. And that's why I keep just talking about the Palestinian prisoner. My second book going to be talk about my story inside the prison, my life inside the Israeli prison, just to compare between the life for the Palestinian prisoner inside the prison and outside the prison. Because I do believe that all the Palestinian people, even inside West Bank, Gaza, in diaspora, inside the Israeli prison, all of these people, they are in Israeli prison. And that's why my second book also gonna talk about the Palestinian prisoner, the life for the Palestinian people outside the prison. And
but why did they put you in prison, the Israelis?
They claim that I have some relation with some people for relation with some enemies for Israel. And that's why I answered them inside the court that even my mother she's an enemy for the Israel. I'm an enemy.
Yes, I mean this is a catch-all, isn't it? You know, but it is extraordinary. But tell me this also. I mean, I'd be fascinated to know, because I'm sure there are lots of young Israelis who, if they could see your work, would start asking more questions. And in a way, you know, cartoons, caricatures, drawings, cartoon strips, humor, it really does pique the mind in a way that, you know, listening to people or watching television sometimes doesn't. So do you have any connection with young Israelis? Is there an Israeli newspaper or magazine that's been brave enough to carry any of your work?
Actually, to be honest with you, I don't have any relation with Israeli people. I have no connection with Israeli people. I'm a supporter for the BDS movement. Maybe I met some Israeli cartoonists in some international festival around the world, but I tried not to make any connection with them, because I do believe as a human being, maybe you can pick some people from Israel to be your friend because they are a human being. But because I do believe in the BDS movement, and I do believe that that's the only peaceful thing that we can use and push Israel to end this occupation. I'm a big supporter for the BDS movement.
I mean, on the issue of your work reaching potential minds that could be influenced. Of course, I mean, you and I know there are some Israelis who also you know, agree with the BDS movement. There are those that we have. Gideon Levy of Haaretz, you know, we've interviewed him here he's a great supporter of the Palestine cause. So there are people out there, and I think that your work is the sort of work that can reach across boundaries and into people's minds. Because if I just think of some of the, I don't know, US cartoonists or British cartoonists, cartoonists in the English world, I can look at them very often in newspapers and magazines I wouldn't buy normally, because I think they're full of reactionary people. That's where I come from. But, you know, cartoonists have got this appeal. So I just wonder, you know, if you are hopeful that you can actually begin to bring some of those younger minds together.
To be honest with you, recently, just like 5 years ago, I've started doing my art from a humanitarian perspective, to describe the Palestinian situation and the Palestinian life inside Palestine. And that's maybe will affect some Israeli audience if they see my cartoon. I do believe that they see my cartoon. They can see my cartoon in the social media, in their newspaper, in some of the Israeli website when they criticized me because of my cartoon. My cartoon for all the people around the world, not just for the Palestinian people. And that's the difference between me before the prison and after the prison. Because when I were in the prison, I started to think that there is no goals or aims when you describe or depict the Palestinian people as a heroes. I have started drawing the Palestinian life and people as a human being and trying to convey their suffering under the occupation because of the occupation. And I hope that some of my cartoon will reach their mind and they can start think about the situation for the Palestinian people here in West Bank, in Gaza, and in 1948 area.